about 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I was farming in a local residence just behind me. I take care of the field for an elderly family. And I was attacked by Africanized bees and stung over 100 times.
Explain the situation. How did it come about?
Well, we cut the hay with a machine called a swather, and it makes a kind of loud clackety noise, so apparently it agitated the bees. We had a lot of bees in the field because the field was in full bloom, and they became very agitated, and when they did, they swarmed and came from behind me. And next thing I know, they hit me in the neck, face, eyes, started stinging me, and then started crawling down my shirt, started stinging me on my shirt and my front, my chest, and everything else.
What was your first thought?
My first thought was, oh, crap. Yeah, seriously, when they started in. Experience in having trained a lot of people over the years on Africanized bees and honeybees and the swarming issues, from the bees, my first instinct was to cover my face because they go after carbon dioxide. And so I covered my face, tried to cover my eyes, and I knew that I had to get out of there.
How many times were you stung, do you know?
They estimate over 100 times.
And you actually went into anaphylactic shock?
That is correct. I went into anaphylactic shock. That's where the body swells up, the tongue swells up, lips swell up, and you stop breathing. And I didn't completely stop breathing, but it was almost to a point where I did.
You were telling me earlier, anyone in a situation like that would probably, their first instinct would be to run, but you got on the tractor and made your getaway.
Yes, I did. I figured that the distance between the farm field where I was at and my house, I wasn't going to make it. And so I stayed on the tractor, and I figured that I could outrun them eventually, and which I did. And at that particular point, I knew I was in trouble. I got on the cell phone. I called my wife. She finally answered the phone. She couldn't understand me because my tongue was all swollen and everything. Finally, my son figured out that I was in trouble, so he ran to the fence, saw that I was leaning over the tractor. We finally got the tractor into the property, and then we expedited for the shower in order to start getting the stingers off and to start getting the rest of the bees off. I ended up basically taking shirt and clothes off, going in the house, shaking the bees off, and then at that particular point we used a credit card and started scraping the stingers off, and then ice cold shower and iced myself down.
I see. That's a good point because I guess the first instinct would be actually to try to pull the stinger out, but you're not supposed to do that.
No, that is correct. Do not squeeze the stinger. If you get stung by a bee, there's venom still in that stinger. It looks really puffy. It looks like almost like a piece of rice with a point on both ends. And if you squeeze that, you'll squeeze the venom and you'll be in worse shape.
Obviously, you're not allergic to bee stings.
Yes, I am allergic to bee. I was a beekeeper for the fire department when I was a firefighter. And when I was doing that, I always carried an EpiPen. But I'm not afraid of bees. I've been stung before by bees. What I do is it swells a little bit, but I don't have any reaction like I had. It was the number of stings that I had that caused the anaphylactic reaction.
What happened when you went to the hospital?
Well, thankfully, Desert View Hospital was prepared. When I arrived, the doctor immediately started a number of IVs on me, and they started me on epinephrine, which is a proper dosing, and they started me on a drug regimen to counteract the bee stings. Just everybody use caution. We've got a lot of flowering trees out there right now. The bushes are in full bloom. We had a lot of moisture this spring. We've got a lot of bees out there right now, so if you see them, just don't agitate them. Don't mess with them. They're bees with an attitude this year, okay? Bees with an attitude.
Real quickly, it's a double-edged sword. Bees are necessary.
In the farming industry, in order for us to produce our crops, we have to have something to go ahead and pollinize the crops. Otherwise, our production is very poor. In the early 1700s, 1800s, when we settled the United States, we brought in bees from Europe and the European honeybee, and we've mutated those bees. We've got a number of different types of bees now at this point, but that was necessary in order to be the agricultural producer that we are in the United States. Without those bees, we wouldn't have the crop production that we have.
And you have a large farm here on the south end of town. What are you growing out here?
We grow alfalfa. It's a special mix. It's Tennessee tall fescue and alfalfa for race horses in hybrid horses, the show horses. And basically what we do is we produce a very high protein hay.
I see. And I imagine possibly the same bees that attacked you are actually pollinating your field.
That is correct.
Wow.
So, like you said, it is a double-edged sword. From here on out, I'm going to be wearing my bee suit anytime I work the field with any equipment, just as a precautionary, and until we sit there and figure out what's going to happen in the future. One of my pieces of equipment's fully enclosed, so it's a lot easier. It may change our farming habit. We may have to put a cab on something or get something with a cab to actually cut the hay from here on out. We'll have to look at what we're going to do in the future, but now we have to start thinking about the bee as being part of our life and part of the threat that we have this industry.